Hello, streaming to YouTube. Hope everybody is having a good night. Saturday night, and I am home doing YouTube stuff. One announcement I wanted to make. I have a new channel where I'm putting up mythology. It's called Heroes, Gods, and Monsters. So you should check that out if you are at all interested in that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to my YouTube studio because I gotta see, are we streaming? And if we're not, I'm going to feel like an idiot. I think there's probably a pretty good chance we're not. Oh, we are. All right. Very happy about that. Okay, so what I'm going to do tonight is I'm actually going to do some recording. I'm going to be reading the Kybalion, which is a book of ancient esoteric knowledge. I'm actually going to be recording this. I want to actually do a book on tape for it. So, let me plug my headphones in. I'll be able to hear myself a little better and get my buttery voice going. So, I thought I would just stream this because who gets a chance to listen to someone read the Kybalion to them all that often? So, we'll have a dog in the background too. Hey, I'm going to read a book to the people. Stop barking. All right, we are now We're now recording. All right, the Kybalion, a study of the hermetic philosophy of ancient Egypt and Greece by the three initiates. All right, let's get this going. Oh, nope, I can't do it from here. I gotta be in Adobe Acrobat. All right, I'll just trust you guys can still see me, even if I'm not looking at myself. Let's run down the chapters. We start with the introduction, and then we go to hermetic philosophy, the 7 hermetic principles, mental transmutation, the all, the mental universe, the divine paradox, the all in all, planes of correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, causation, gender, mental gender, and hermetic axioms. Introduction. We take great pleasure in presenting to the attention of students and investigators of the secret doctrines this little work based upon the world-old hermetic teachings. There has been so little written upon this subject, notwithstanding the countless references to the teachings in the many works upon occultism, that the many earnest searchers after the arcane truths will doubtless welcome the appearance of the present volume. The purpose of this work is not the enunciation of any special philosophy or doctrine, but rather is to give to the students a statement of the truth that will serve to reconcile the many bits of occult knowledge that they may have acquired, but which are apparently opposed to each other and which often serve to discourage and disgust the beginner in the study. Our intent is not to erect a new temple of knowledge, but rather to place in the hands of the student a master key with which he may open the many inner doors in the temple of mystery through the main portals he has already entered. There is no portion of the occult teachings possessed by the world which have been so closely guarded as the fragments of the hermetic teachings which have come down to us over the tens of centuries which have elapsed since the lifetime of its great founder Hermes Hermes Trismegistus, the scribe of the gods, who dwelt in old Egypt in the days when the present race of men was in its infancy. Contemporary with Abraham, and, if the legends be true, an instructor of that... let's try that again. Contemporary with Abraham, and, if the legends be true, an instructor of that venerable sage, Hermes was and is the great central sun of occultism, whose rays have served to illumine the countless teachings which have been promulgated since his time. All the fundamental and basic teachings embedded in the esoteric teachings of every race may be traced back to Hermes. Even the most ancient teachings of India undoubtedly have their roots in the original Hermetic teachings. From the land of the Ganges, many advanced occultists wandered to the land of Egypt and sat at the feet of the master. From him they obtained the master key, which explained and From him they attained the master key, which explained and reconciled their divergent views, and thus the secret doctrine was firmly established. From other lands also came the learned ones, all of whom regard Hermes as the master of masters, and his influence was so great that in spite of the many wanderings from the path on the part of the centuries of teachers in these different lands, there may still be found a certain basic resemblance and correspondence which underlies the many and often quite divergent theories entertained and taught by the occultists of these different lands today. The student of comparative religions will be able to perceive the influence of the Hermetic teachings in every religion worthy of the name, now known to man, whether it be a dead religion or one in full vigor in our own times. There is always a certain correspondence in spite of the contradictory features, and the Hermetic teachings act as the great There is always a certain correspondence in spite of the contradictory features, and the Hermetic teachings act as the great reconciler. The life work of Hermes seems to have been in the direction of planting the great seed truth, which has grown and blossomed in so many strange forms, rather than to establish a school of philosophy which would dominate the world's thought. But nevertheless, the original truths taught by him have been kept intact in their original purity by a few men in each age, who, refusing great numbers of half-developed students and followers, followed the Hermetic custom and reserved their truth for the few who are ready to comprehend and master it. From lip to ear, the truth has been handed down among the few. There have always been a few initiates in each generation, in the various lands of the earth, who kept alive the sacred flame of the Hermetic teachings, and such have always been willing to use their lamps to relight the lesser lamps of the outside world, when the light of truth grew dim and clouded by reasons of neglect, and when the wicks became clogged with foreign matter. There were always a few to tend faithfully the altar of the truth, upon which was kept alight the perpetual lamp of wisdom. These men devoted their lives to the labor of love, which the poet has so well stated in his lines. Oh, let not the flame die out, cherished age after age in its dark cavern, in its holy temples cherished, fed by the pure ministers of love, let not the flame die out. These men have never sought popular approval, nor numbers or followers. They are indifferent to these things, for they know how few there are in each generation who are ready for the truth, or who would recognize it if it were presented to them. They reserve the strong meat for men, while others furnish the milk for babes. They reserve their pearls of wisdom for the few elect who recognize their value and who wear them in their crowns, instead of casting them before the materialistic vulgar swine who would trample them in the mud and mix them with their disgusting mental food. But still, these men have never forgotten or overlooked the original teachings of Hermes regarding the passing on of the words of truth to those ready to receive it, which teaching is stated in the Kybalion as follows: Where fall the footsteps of the master, the ears of those ready for his teachings open wide. And again, when the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom. But their customary attitude has always been strictly in accordance with the other Hermetic aphorism, also in the Kybalion. The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. There are those who have criticized this attitude of the Hermetists, and who have claimed that they did not manifest the proper spirit in their policy of seclusion and reticence. But a moment's glance back over the pages of history will show the wisdom of the masters, who knew the folly of attempting to teach to the world that which it was neither ready or willing to receive. The Hermetists have never sought to be martyrs, and have instead sat silently aside with a pitying smile on their closed lips, while the heathen raged noisily about them, in their customary amusement of putting to death and torture the honest but misguided enthusiasts who imagined that they could force open a race of barbarians, the truth capable of being understood only by the elect who had advanced along the path. And the spirit of persecution has not as yet died out in the land. There are certain Hermetic teachings which, if publicly promulgated, would bring down upon the teachers a great cry of scorn and revilement from the multitude, who would again raise the cry of crucify, crucify. In this little work, we have endeavored to give you an idea of the fundamental teachings of the Kybalion, striving to give you the working principles, leaving you to apply them yourselves rather than attempting to work out the teaching in detail. If you are a true student, you will be able to work out and apply these principles. If not, then you must develop yourself into one. For otherwise, the hermetic teachings will be as words, words, words to you. The three initiates. That last part, that's a quote from Hamlet. I'm going to take a break from recording for a second. Stop. So that was 8 minutes and 50 seconds. I'm going to save that just in case we... And that is Kybalion intro. Fun, fun, fun. Is everybody having fun watching me read the Kybalion hermetic knowledge? Hermetic knowledge is pretty interesting. We're going to get into the 7 secrets pretty soon. I was also going to maybe go on to YouTube real fast and change the title of this, because I think some people would be interested to watch this. And we're going to get into the first chapter now, the hermetic philosophy, and that's going to be really exciting. And who wouldn't want to be part of that? So let me just let YouTube know. If you are watching, I'm actually not watching the comments right now because I got to read. But if you are watching, please drop a line, say hi. I am starting to tape some more content, and I thought I would do a little streaming live just for fun. We'll get to the stream in just a second. I just want to see how it's going on the back end. You know, you always got to look at that back end from time to time. I got this buttery mic. Makes my voice sound all buttery. I like it a lot. I was told that you're not supposed to wear headphones too often, listen to your own voice, or you fall in love with it. And I'm falling in love with my voice right now. It sounds so good. Kirk Faulkner live stream. Let's Kirk Faulkner. Kirk reads the Kybalion. Reads the Kybalion secret hermetic text. Dude, who won't want to do that, right? All right, let's get back to it. We're going to do chapter 1. I'm going to get my plug real fast, and we will do chapter 1 in 3 seconds. Let's go already. All right. Let me start QuickTime up. Start another audio recording. Give a peek in OBS just to make sure everything's looking fresh. Oops. Wrong thing. Ugh. Yeah, looking way fresh. Accidentally started Rome Research, which I don't use ever anymore. All right. Here we go. The Hermetic Philosophy, Chapter 1. The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding, the Kybalion. From old Egypt have come the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings. I didn't start recording. Sorry. Chapter 1. The Hermetic Philosophy. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding, the Kybalion. From old Egypt have come the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings which have so strongly influenced the philosophies of all races, nations, and peoples for several thousand years. Egypt, the home of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was the birthplace of the hidden wisdom and the mystic teachings. From her secret doctrine, all nations have borrowed. India, Persia, Chaldea, Media, China, Japan, Assyria, ancient Greece and Rome, and Other ancient countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge, which... Hey, did you knock it off? I'm recording secret esoteric knowledge. You dummy. It's Kasha. Kasha, who is actually named after the Akashic Records, which is related to the Kybalion, actually. It's going to be the first secret of mentalism. It's really going to not add to the thing. Okay. From her secret doctrine, all nations have borrowed. India, Persia, Chaldea, I think it's Chaldea, Media, China, Japan, Assyria, ancient Greece, and Rome, and other ancient countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge, which the hierophants and masters of the land of Isis so freely provided to those who came. Come on. Why aren't you page downing? All right. 15, all right. Okay. Who came prepared to partake of the great store of mystic and occult lore, which the masterminds of the ancient land had gathered together. In ancient Egypt dwelt the great adepts and masters who have never been surpassed and who seldom have been equaled during the centuries that have taken their processional flight since the days of the great Hermes. In Egypt was located the great lodge of lodges of the mystics. At the doors of her temples entered the neophytes who afterward, as hierophants, adepts, and masters, traveled to the four corners of the earth, carrying with them the precious knowledge which they were ready, anxious, and willing to pass on to those who were ready to receive the same. All students of the occult recognized the debt that they owe to these venerable masters of the ancient land. But among these great masters of ancient Egypt there once dwelt one of whom masters hailed as the master of masters. This man, if man indeed he was named with the name of Thoth. I kind of missed a sentence there because there's an ad in this. This man, if man indeed he was, name of Thoth. Okay, feels like I missed something there, but years after, the people of ancient Greece also made him one of their many gods, calling him Hermes, the god of wisdom. The Egyptians revered his memory for many centuries, yes, tens of centuries, calling him the scribe of the gods and bestowing upon him distinctively his ancient title. I tried to say this before. Trismegistus, which means the thrice great, the great, the greatest great, etc. In all the ancient lands, the name of Hermes Trismegistus was revered, the name being synonymous with the fount of wisdom. Even to this day, we use the term hermetic in the sense of secret, sealed, so that nothing can escape, etc. And this by reason of the fact that the followers of Hermes always observed the principle of secrecy in their teachings. They did not believe in casting pearls before swine, but rather held to the teaching, milk for babes, meat for strong men, both of which maxims are familiar to readers of the Christian scriptures, but both of which had been used by the Egyptians for centuries before the Christian era. And this policy of careful dissemination of the truth has always characterized the Hermeticists, the Hermetics. Even unto the present day, the Hermetic teachings are to be found in all lands, among all religions, but never identified with any particular country, not with any particular religious sect. This because of the warning of the ancient teachers against allowing the secret doctrine to become crystallized into a creed. The wisdom of this caution is apparent to all students of history. The ancient occultism of India and Persia degenerated and was largely lost owing to the fact that the teachers became priests and so mixed theology with the philosophy. The result being that the occultism of India and Persia has been gradually lost amidst the mass of religious superstition, cults, creeds, and gods. So it was with ancient Greece and Rome. So it was with the Hermetic teachings and the Gnostics and the early Christians, which were lost at the time of, I'm going to guess, Constantine, whose iron hand smothered philosophy with the blanket of theology, losing to the Christian church that which was its very essence and spirit, and causing it to grope throughout several centuries before it found the way back to its ancient faith. The indications apparent to all careful observers in this 20th century being that the church is now struggling to get back to its The church is now struggling to get back to its ancient mystic teachings. But there were always a few faithful souls who kept alive the flame, tending it carefully and not allowing its light to become extinguished. And thanks to these staunch hearts and fearless minds, we have the truth still with us. But it is not found in books to any great extent. It has been passed along from master to student, from initiate to hierophant, from lip to ear. When it was written down at all, its meaning was veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, so that only those possessing the key could read it aright. This was made necessary in order to avoid the persecutions of the theologians of the Middle Ages, who fought the secret doctrine with fire and sword, stake, gibbet, and cross. Even to this day there will be found but few reliable books on the Hermetic philosophy, although there are countless references to it in many books written on various phases of occultism. And yet the Hermetic philosophy is the only master key which will open all the doors of the occult teachings. In the early days there was a compilation of certain basic Hermetic doctrines passed on from teacher to student, which was known as the Kybalion. The exact significance of this meaning of the term having been lost for several centuries. This teaching, however, is known to many to whom it is descended from mouth to ear, on and on throughout the centuries. Its precepts have never been written down or printed so far as we know. It was merely a collection of maxims, axioms, and precepts which were non-understandable to outsiders, but which were readily understood by students after the axioms, maxims, and precepts had been explained and exemplified by the Hermetic initiates to their neophytes. These teachings really constituted the basic principles of the art of the Hermetic alchemy, which, contrary to the general belief, dealt in the mastery of mental forces rather than material elements, the transmutation of one kind of mental vibrations into others, instead of the changing of one kind of metal into another. Just an N off between metal and mental. The legends of the Philosopher's Stone, which would turn base metal into gold, was an allegory relating to Hermetic philosophy, readily understood by all students of true Hermeticism. In this little book, of which this is the first lesson, we invite our students to examine into the Hermetic teachings as set forth in the Kybalion, and as explained by ourselves, humble students of the teachings, who, while bearing the title of initiates, are still students at the feet of Hermes the Master. We herein give you many of the maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion, accompanied by explanations and illustrations which we deem likely to render the teachings more easily comprehended by the modern student, particularly as the original text is purposely veiled in obscure terms. The original maxims, axioms, and precepts of the Kybalion are printed herein in quotation marks, the proper credit being given. Our own work is printed in the regular way in the body of the work. We trust that the many students to whom we now offer this little work will derive as much benefit from the study of its pages as have the many who have gone on before, treading the same path to mastery throughout the centuries that have passed since the time of Hermes Trismegistus, the master of masters, the great. In the words of the Kybalion, oh, here we go. In the words of the Kybalion, where fall the footsteps of the master, the ears of those ready for his teaching open wide, the Kybalion. When the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to something them with wisdom. Oh, fill them with wisdom. All right. Let's try that again. When the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom. The Kybalion. So that according to the teachings, the passage of this book to those ready for the instruction will attract the attention of such as are prepared to receive the teaching. And likewise, when the pupil is ready to receive the truth, then will this little book come to him or her. Such is the law. The Hermetic principle of cause and effect in its aspect of the law of attraction will bring lips and ear together, pupil and book in company. So mote it be. So mote it be. Maybe that'll be a t-shirt. I'm going to stop my recording again. I'm going to do this by chapter. So that was 10 minutes. Pretty good. Give it a little save. Kybalion, chapter 1. I think, right? Yeah, probably. All right, let's do another one. Let's keep it rolling. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. New audio recording, and we're recording. This is Kybalion Chapter 2. Got these little ads in here. All right. Why does it seem like we skipped a bunch there? The Kybalion 4, the principle of cause and effect. Hey now. What happened? All right, we go from the hermetic philosophy, and then it should be 7 hermetic principles next. What the what? 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. All right. Okay. No, we're good. Oh, it just listed the 7 principles, but we didn't get to see them. Because on the other page, it's missing. This page is locked to free members. Ouch! I thought I was missing some stuff. I wonder if there's... All right. Well, we'll have to go. Anyway, it just lists the 7 principles, and we'll go through them one by one. It's the principle of mentalism, the principle of... let's see if I can remember them all. Mentalism, polarity, vibration. We got cause and effect, gender, and rhythm. There's one other one. Think of it later. All right. I wish I wasn't recording all of this on the thing. All right, we'll stop this. And I'm going to get rid of that because that was all garbage. And now we're going to start it again. Sorry, all you people watching the stream had to go through that, but here we go. The principle of mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. Gotta take deep breaths. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent to our material senses, is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universal, infinite living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world of universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe, and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws, instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ago, he who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery. And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. All right. Principle 2, the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. The old hermetic axiom ran in these words: as above, so below, so above. And the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox of the hidden secret of nature. There are planes beyond our knowing, but when we apply the principle of correspondence to them, we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe. It is an universal law. The ancient Hermetists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known to the unknown. Studying the monad, he understands the archangel. Principle 3, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, the Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. Facts which modern science endorses and which each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And yet this hermetic principle was enunciated thousands of years ago by the masters of ancient Egypt. This principle explains that the differences between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result largely from the varying rates of vibration, from the all which is pure spirit down to the grossest form of matter. All is in vibration. The higher the vibration, the higher the position in the scale. The vibration of spirit is at such an infinite rate of intensity and rapidity that it is practically at rest, just as a rapidly moving wheel seems to be motionless. And at the other end of the scale, there are gross forms of matter whose vibrations are so low as to seem at rest. Between these poles, there are millions upon millions of varying degrees of vibration, from corpuscle and electron, atom, and molecule to worlds and universes. Everything is in vibratory motion. This is also true of the planes of energy and force, which are but varying degrees of vibration. And also on the mental planes, whose states depend on vibrations, and even on to the spiritual planes. An understanding of the principle with the appropriate formulas enables hermetic students to control their own mental vibrations as well as those of others. The masters also apply this principle to the conquering of natural phenomena in various ways. He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power, says one of the old writers. Principle 4, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that everything is dual. Everything has two poles. Everything has its pair of opposites, all of which were old hermetic axioms. It explains the old paradoxes that have perplexed so many and that have been stated as follows. Thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree. Opposites are the same, differing only in degree. The pairs of opposites may be reconciled. Extremes meet. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half-truths. Every truth is a half-false. There are two sides to everything, etc., etc., etc. It explains that in everything there are two poles or opposite aspects, and that opposites are really only the two extremes of the same thing with... Oh no, we lost another page. It's lost secret knowledge of lost secret knowledge. All right, I'm going to pick it back up here. Hard and soft, between black and white, between sharp and dull, between noise and quiet, between high and low, between positive and negative. The principle of polarity explains these paradoxes, and no other principle can supersede it. The same principle operates on the mental plane. Let us take a radical and extreme example, that of love and hate, two mental states apparently totally different, and yet there are degrees of hate and degrees of love, and a middle point in which we use the terms like or dislike, which shade into each other so gradually that sometimes we are at a loss to know whether we like or dislike or neither, and all are simply degrees of the same thing, as you will see if you will but think a moment. And more than this, and considered of more importance by the Hermetists, it is possible to change the vibrations of hate to the vibrations of love in one's own mind and in the minds of others. Many of you who read these lines have had... Oh no, what the heck? Have had personal experiences of the involuntary rapid transition from love to hate, and the reverse in your own case and that of others, and you will therefore realize the possibility of this being accomplished by the use of the will by means of the Hermetic formulas. Good and evil are but the poles of the same thing, and the Hermetist understands the art of transmuting evil into good by means of an application of the principle of polarity. In short, the art of polarization becomes a phase of mental alchemy known and practiced by the ancient and modern Hermetic masters. An understanding of the principle will enable one to change his own polarity, as well as that of others, if he will devote the time and study necessary to master the art. The principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that in everything there is manifested a measured motion to and fro, a flow in flow, a swing backward and forward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide-like ebb and flow, a high tide and low tide between the two poles which exist in accordance with the principle of polarity described a moment ago. There is always an action and a reaction, an advance and a retreat, a rising and a sinking. This is in the affairs of the universe, suns, worlds, men, animals, mind, energy, and matter. This law is manifest in the creation and destruction of worlds, and the rise and fall of nations, in the life of all things, and finally in the mental states of man, and it is with this latter that the Hermeticists find the understanding of the principle most important. The Hermetists have grasped this principle, finding its universal application, and have also discovered the certain means to overcome its effect in themselves by the use of the appropriate formulas and methods. They apply the mental law of neutralization. They cannot annul the principle or cause it to cease its operation, but they have learned how to escape its effects upon themselves to a certain degree, depending on the mastery of the principle. They have learned how to use it instead of being used by it. In this and similar methods consists the art of the Hermetists. The master of Hermetics polarizes himself at the point at which he desires to rest, and then neutralizes the rhythmic swing of the pendulum, which would tend to carry him to the other pole. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery do this to a certain degree, more or less unconsciously. But the master does this consciously and by the use of his will, and attains a degree of poise and mental firmness almost impossible of belief on the part of the masses, who are swung backward and forward like a pendulum. This principle and that of polarity have been closely studied by the Hermetists, and the methods of counteracting, neutralizing, and using them form an important part of the Hermetic mental alchemy. The principle of cause and effect. That was the one I forgot. So principle 6. Principle 6. Principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect and an effect for every cause. It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance, that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower the higher dominating the lower planes, still nothing ever entirely escapes the law. The Hermetists understand the art and methods of rising above the ordinary plane of cause and effect to a certain degree, and by mentally rising to a higher plane, they become causers instead of effects. The masses of people are carried along obedient to environment. The wills and desires of others stronger than themselves, heredity, suggestion, and other outward causes moving them about like pawns on the chessboard of life. But the masters rising to the plane above dominate their moods, characters, qualities, and powers, as well as the environment surrounding them, and become movers instead of pawns. They help to play the game of life, instead of being played and moved about by other wills and environment. They use the principle instead of being its tools. The masters obey the causation of the higher planes, but they help to rule on their own plane. In this statement, there is condensed a wealth of hermetic knowledge. Let him read who can. Principle 7, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. The Kybalion. 7. The principle of gender. This principle embodies the truth that there is gender manifested in everything, the masculine and feminine principles ever at work. This is true not only of the physical plane, but of the mental and even the spiritual planes. On the physical plane, the principle manifests as sex. On the higher planes, it takes higher forms, but the principle is ever the same. No creation, physical, mental, or spiritual, is possible without this principle. An understanding of its laws will throw light on many a subject that has perplexed the minds of men. The principle of gender works ever in the direction of generation, regeneration, and creation. Everything and every person contains the two elements or principles of this great principle within it, him or her. Every male thing has the female element also. Every female contains also the male principle. If you would understand that the philosophy of mental and spiritual creation, generation, and regeneration, you must understand and study this hermetic principle. It contains the solution of many mysteries. Oh, nuts. That was going to be a good page, too. All right. Well, shoot. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can find that real fast. Kybalion PDF. That was a big bummer. All right. I think we might be able to get this. All right, we're skipping ahead. What page were we on? No. Good God. We were on page 40, so we missed 41. So I bet I can get to 41 right here. Oh, this looks like it might be a little different. Well, anyway, yeah, I do feel bad about that. Next time I'll read from this version. It doesn't have anything missing. All right, well, anyway, I hope everybody got enough out of that. I'm going to stop recording. I'll probably have to redo that one anyway. It was too crazy. And now I'm going to just jump over, because I actually haven't looked to see if anybody's in here or anything. How do you do that? Channel content. Live. Oh, no one's here. But maybe someone will come and watch it someday. Anyway, thanks everybody who wasn't here, but next time, huh? Thank you.